just a recap over Photobook in InDesign. So I just want to go through the first stages of actually setting it up, and then we might just look at placing and adding text. I just really kind of want to go through the stuff maybe that I've covered in class in one document, or sorry, in one recording. So I'm going to click on Home here. You can also say File New if you're starting. Sorry, if in InDesign you can say File New, or you click on Home here. So I'm going to click here, and New File as our File New File, and you go to Print for this one, and we go to View All Presets. We pick a 4. Then up here where it says Pick As, I'm going to pick millimeters. Make sure Facing Pages is ticked. I can go for portrait or for landscape, depending on what type of photo book I want. Now remember, it's much easier to get a portrait printed than it is to get a landscape. So the pages, it has to be in 4s because I'm printing, if it's a piece of paper that's been folded, say an A3 folded to A4, you have 4 sides, so that's why it has to be in 4s. So let's give ourselves 16 pages to start with, and starting on page 1. So columns, how many columns do we want? I think 3 is kind of always a good option. So I'm going to put up 3. You could of course do 4, but keep it at 3. This doesn't mean that you have to shove everything into columns. It just means it gives you an outline. If you want to kind of space stuff out a bit neater, you use the columns. So I'm going to come on down to Ignore Margins, leave it the way it is, and come on down to Bleed. So Bleed is where if you want your book to be, the images on your book to be printed with no white border on the edge. You will notice an awful lot of Photobooks actually are kind of done that way, but they're also done the other way as well, where there might be a white frame around it. So if you put up one side, I put the top up to 3 millimeters, and the rest all follow. And then I'm just going to ignore Slug. Slug, as far as I know, is the bit just where the bind is. I'm going to click Create. Okay, so a number of options here. I'm just going to close this over here. Your pages show you exactly what it says. It shows you your pages. So there's the page I'm on now, the front page. You can see are the columns, 3 columns. If I go to this view here, which is the view of like how it would be printed, I'm not going to see those columns. It's only when I'm working on it that I see them. So this is kind of the working option. It's just easier to kind of play with and see how things work. This is my bleed line. So if I want to have something printing over the edge, I go a little bit past this red line here. This is known as the safe zone in here. So it's where if you put everything that's important in here, there's no chance of anything getting kind of chopped off or just a little bit lost at the side. So keep an eye on that. If I want to go on to the next page here, I can just either come down that way. No, that didn't work. Sorry. You can either double click here. If I switch this off, I can come down. So I'm just going to close this for a second. So another way of going through, if you need to go through this way, to go to page by page. When you get, so see the first page, I can see it that way. But then the next 2 pages, sometimes they mightn't quite fit if you need something to fit. So I am on this say page here at 6, 7. If I want 2 and 3, just going to double click here. It's the easiest way to do is say View, Fit, Spread and Window, and it'll just fit in. Because this is kind of a laptop screen, it's not quite as big as maybe when you're working on a computer. So I would switch this on and off just so I can have the full screen. To zoom in, I'm going to click Command plus. It would be Control plus if you're on a PC. So I'm going to zoom in, and then to zoom out, it's Command minus or Control minus. This space here is very handy to kind of place things. If you're going to place text or images or some things, just to leave them there. It's like your desk. It's not going to, when you're getting this printed or when you're looking at it or exporting it, it's not going to become part of it. Only what you see here will be part of it. Okay, so I have a few examples. It's kind of like the initial setup, I suppose. I have a few examples here just to go through. So let me check here. Okay, so this is an example where I do have 3 columns, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, and I'm just going to click here, and you can see there's no sign of the columns at all. This one was set up, just going to move up here, with a front page that goes over the line. See, it goes past the bleed. So even though the image is bigger, I kind of wanted to just have this part in the on the cover. Click here, you can see what part. I've then put a text box that is a little bit bigger, so I can move it up and down and put it in there. Everything is kind of, it's a little bit like Photoshop, everything is separate. So I have a background, I've got my text box, and I have my photo. Just going to go on to the next page. So this page, again, view, fit spread in windows. This one has a bit of text. It has a color on it. I suppose traditionally, really, when you think of a photo book, your front page, yes, you cover, you have something on it. Then kind of the next page you generally don't have. It's usually blank. And then you might have an intro on this page, page 3, and then you go into your photos on the next one. So this one here is you just are putting in a shape, and if you can see there, putting in a shape and filling it with a color. And then I put a text box on and put some text in that. So I kind of just wanted to run through a little bit about doing that. How do I do that? So I might do that on the new one that I just set up. One other thing I wanted to show you was, before I do that, is, and it was actually a question that somebody had about if you forget to put the columns in, you want to put them in. So let's just see how would you do that. So I'm going to click off here for a second and show you this one. So as you can see with this one, I have 3 columns. I have this one slightly over the edge. You know, for all my saying, oh, keep things into columns, sometimes you might want to just go a little bit over the edge, but it still keeps it kind of even enough. And then my text is in the 3rd column. So my picture is going over the 2 columns, my picture is in the 3rd column. Then opposite it, I have, this is a spread, I have one of the images covering the whole page. So kind of, I suppose for me, it kind of balances out a little bit to have one page that's full page and the other one that has 2 bits in it. I've also put this thing called a drop shadow. Sometimes you might want that if you want to just pop your photo out a little bit from the page. So if I have a document that I've saved, a couple of things, I've forgotten to do this. I've forgotten to put on the columns, and I wanted to add the columns to it. So I'm just going to come to this one because I didn't do it on this one, as far as I remember. Yeah, okay, so I don't have it on this one. I'm going to click here, and I want to basically make this a little bit more even. So what I'm going to do is I click on pages, and I am going to click on this one. I'm on pages, and I'm on this, I suppose this is almost, I don't know if you remember Photoshop, this is always the safe one, just the arrow to be on the selection tool. So I'm on pages, and I'm going to click on properties for that pages, and I have this edit page section. So if I need to change something on the page, I might do it. So just for this page, I'm going to come to edit page, and I should have the option, I do, margins and columns. I want to just add a few columns. So I'm going to say 3 columns. I'm not going to change anything else other than this, because everything else is fine, and I'm going to say okay. So you can see the 3 columns have gone in there. It won't affect anything. When it's printed, it'll be like that. But it does give me the option of how to maybe balance this out a little more. So I'm going to click on this picture and just drag it out a little bit bigger. Oh, sorry, I'm on the one there. Move tool. Click on this picture and just drag it out a little bit more to fit that space. So I'll use Shift and Command to drag from the corner. I'm just coming out a little bit. Leave it there. If I use my arrow tools, my up and down, if I want to kind of place it a little bit better, I can use them up and down, because sometimes you might go over the edge. If I have to be really detailed on where this image is placed, if you zoom in much closer, it's kind of easier. So if I did Command plus, and I wanted to move things around a little bit more, this is kind of where I'd close this over. I wanted to get right up to that line there. It's much easier when you're closer to see what you're doing, and when it's zoomed out, it's quite hard to see it. So you can see my drop shadow, which is this thing here, is right at the edge of that. I'm going to say view, fit spread in windows, so I can see it. Okay, and then my text. So maybe I've gone over a little bit, but it's not too bad because only the drop shadow has gone over. So my text now, with my text placeholder, I want to make that a little bit more in line with the column that's there. So I'm going to drag it over a little bit more here and down here. Okay, now this text here is known as placeholder text. So if you have an area where you want to put text in, and you know how much you're going to do, you probably you kind of need to know what it's going to look like. So this box is here with this amount of text. It's nothing that I've typed. It's just, as far as I know, it's just Latin in it, but it's a very handy way of just seeing how the text will look. I'm going to click here to see my print view, and you can see it there. So there's nothing, if I look here, there's nothing on this page that goes onto the red line. So remember, this red line here is my bleed line. So once I'm within this space, I'm okay. When I go up as far as the red line, then what I'm going to end up is that type of image where it's right to the edge. I'll just check, do I have one of those at the start of this? No, this one, they're all within the line. There's nothing going out over the line. Whereas with this one, you can see with this one that it is outside the line, and also with my title, my cover page, it's outside the line. There it is. There's the red bleed line and there's that. So it's up to you, you know, both fit quite neatly together. You know, you don't have to have everything outside the line. As far as the bleed line, you can have both work. You really need to start looking at other photo books and researching photo books and seeing the type of style you like and how you what way you want to work with it.